Right. So this question is asking us, what point does the writer make about the use of one-liner? So there's a specific phrase, and if the writer is not asking us the meaning of this phrase, but rather he's asking us what point the writer is trying to make by using this one-liner. In order to answer this question, you must read around this particular phrase or word to get the sense of the context in which we are using this particular phrase, because one word can have a completely different meaning depending on the context that you're using this in. So let's start by understanding the context for this. I first of all read the very sentence which does contain this line. On a single shift in the emergency department, I regularly read through the one liners of more than 2 dozen patients. So basically, whoever this person is, on a single shift, he read through the one liners of so many patients, and he's trying to say that, okay, it was a single shift, but more than 2 dozen patients. So he's trying to say a lot of patients, their one liners he saw. What context is this? I will need to read this line before and I will need to read this line afterward. Remember, if you are able to understand the meaning just by this sentence, you do not need to read any more sentences. If you do not, then we'll come to this last line as well. Let's see. A 53-year-old woman with right lower quadrant abdominal pain, a 21-year-old opioid abuser withdrawal, an 80-year-old woman with chest pain, and then that's it. So these one-liners are obviously these sentences, one sentences or one singular line about patients that he read. But what's the point about this? I did not understand, so I am going to read one more sentence. Along with most of my colleagues, I end up recalling. What does the word recalling mean? The word recalling means to remember. So I end up, along with most of my colleagues, I end up remembering people by their presenting clinical symptom, and their presenting clinical symptom, if I'm not wrong, is the same thing as these 53-year-old woman with this pain or with chest pain or in the emergency department with a opioid user. Yeah, so that's the clinical symptom or main medical diagnosis. Okay, so that means he's trying to say that along with most of my colleagues also remember the patients in this way by the one sentence or by the one line that we read about this person, right? I've understood this. Now, it's the only practical way of keeping track of who's who. We are getting more information about one liner only. So when I say it is the only way to do something, I'm trying to bring your attention to this. It is the only way to do something. It is the only way of keeping track of who's who, basically who is which patient, what is the problem they have. So it is the only way of doing this. Much as we recognize this to be clinically, this is not necessary for you to read this line, but rather up until here, I have a pretty good understanding of what this one-liner thing he's referring to and why he's using it as well. Now let's look at the questions. What point does the writer make about the use of one-liners? It places too much emphasis on a patient's age. He did not make it a point to talk about the patient's age as the most important thing. He also, when I say too much of something, I think we mean to say that I am saying rather something negative, and that negative thing is not happening here. Instead, the person is saying that, listen, this is how we remember this person, and this is the only practical way of for us to do it, for us to remember it. So this too much emphasis, along with saying on the patient's age, this I am sure is going to be incorrect. Then I see it should be, these one-liners should be restricted to written communications. They have not suggested what should be done, what should not be done. Also, they haven't made it a point to talk about written communication versus other way of communication. They have only discussed how they remember someone. And if you remember someone, that is not communication. Communication happens between two people. So restricted to written communication, that is a completely different idea than not at all discussing this. Then it is an effective way to distinguish between patient, of keeping track who's who, who's which patient, the only practical way. That means it is an effective way because by doing this, they are able to remember this. So far, answer option C makes sense to me, but am I going to select it right now? No, I'm not going to select it right away. The reason for this is simple. If I select an answer option that I like without eliminating the other answer choices, I am setting myself up for failure because the other answer option could probably be more accurate in answering this question. And I wouldn't know that because I haven't seen the other answer option. So don't select it just yet. In answer option D, it can lead to, these one-liners can lead to misunderstandings between colleagues. They haven't said anything about misunderstandings between colleagues. Are you noticing that in the paragraph, they haven't mentioned anything negative as such, but rather something positive they have mentioned accordingly. They have, though, mentioned the word colleagues again and again. So some students are going to say, oh, I see the word colleague, I see the word colleague here, so I should just select it as an answer. While the other students are going to say, oh, I see 21-year-old, 80-year-old, or this age, so they are going to select this answer option A. But remember, focus on what the question is asking you. If you focus on the details of the paragraph without even recognizing that the question is not asking for details, then you will end up selecting the wrong answer, even if you are selecting a particular detail from the paragraph. I hope that is clear. It's a very easy question to answer. So, our correct answer option here would definitely become answer option C. Hope that is clear.